Hello and welcome to WGTC Radio, the official podcast of entertainment website We Got This Covered. I'm Jonathan Lack.
And I am Sean Chapman.
And we are here to talk about stuff. This is going to be a really good podcast. This combines, I think, two of our favorite things to do on the podcast, which is talk about a bunch of random news and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what we do anyway is just, talk about bullshit.
Yeah. Along with talking about some cool classic film stuff.
Yeah.
We are going to start our little Halloween retrospective that'll run 1 or 2 or 3 podcasts. We'll see. Depending on when the next one comes out, we may combine the last 2 movies we were going to do. But you may remember
It would be a weird, double feature.
Sure,
weird
yes.
back-to-back.
You may remember last week I asked Sean on the podcast, Sean, what are some Halloween movies or horror movies we should watch this Halloween and maybe talk about on the podcast? And you said...
No, I said first, Dracula, because it's fucking Dracula.
1931, Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, Dracula-ass motherfucking Dracula.
Right.
And 2, John Carpenter's The Thing, because that's sort of... to me, the epitome of, kind of really the epitome of horror movies, because it's, that's that era of, with practical effects where they hit the absolute, maximum of what you can do with that, and The Thing's just an amazing fucking movie. And then I thought we'd round it out with a modern horror movie that I really like for maybe not the reasons most people really like it, and that movie is Insidious. And I just wanted you to see it, because I think it's a really fucking funny movie by the time you get to the end. It's really scary at the beginning, and then it descends into complete lunacy.
So, modern horror in a nutshell?
Yeah, it is it's, to me, Insidious is a great, example of the problems with trying to make a horror movie as opposed to, a horror short story or something like that. But
right.
We can talk about that when we get to Insidious.
Well, and we'll talk about that when we get to Dracula, which is very short form in certain ways. But we're going to talk about Dracula this week. That'll be our main discussion. So if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Super easy to get. I think Amazon streaming probably has it too.
Yeah, you can probably
easy
see
to
this
find.
fucking everywhere.
Yeah, iTunes, I know you can buy it from there. So super easy, 74 minutes. Give it a watch. Definitely worth it. At the very least, as a historical curiosity, really fascinating. We're going to go into the history of it, some interesting facts and stuff, and we'll talk about the movie itself. First up, lots of different things to talk about. I'm going to save some of my discussion of games and stuff I've been playing for a mini topic later in the episode. But let's get right into some news. Is there anything you wanted to mention before then? Random stuff?
Not really. I mean, the only thing I've been doing, because I've been really busy with school stuff, is I'm still playing Splinter Cell Blacklist. That game is still really fucking good.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good. All right. So let's do some news. The big news this week, and this is so unexpected, really interesting to talk about, is that this week Ubisoft announced that they are delaying Watch Dogs, which was basically, I think, the most anticipated launch title
easily
for both the PS4 and Xbox One. And it is, and on all platforms, it is coming out next year now, early 2014, spring 2014.
Yeah.
Who knows? They also pushed back The Crew, which was already coming out in 2014.
that was such an ambiguous release date anyways. It's okay, sure.
Yeah. And then, even more unexpected, because this felt so ingrained to the PS4 launch plans, is DriveClub, team-based racing.
It has been delayed because
they want more time to work on the game. And that was the excuse for both of these. Which,
fair enough, with DriveClub, the team-based racing, whatever the fuck that is probably really hard to nail down. So give that dude more time.
Well, and here's the thing on both of these, is I want to say up front, I'm disappointed because I really was looking forward to playing these games day one, but if the delay makes them better, more power to them.
Yeah.
I want them to have the time to make it work.
Watch Dogs, I'm not so sure that was delayed for, them trying to tinker on the game. I'm pretty sure DriveClub was, because there had been, people who had seen the game before it came out were talking about how it's the frame rate was pretty rough and stuff this close to release. So I'm pretty sure DriveClub got pushed back because they want to work on it. Sony would not. I'm sure that was a really hard decision to make, to try to push back one of your first party launch games. Watch Dogs, we were so close to that game fucking launching that it seemed like they were so they were so ready. Nobody was there. Were no rumors about the game having poor frame rate or anything like that. That game has been showed off so much at every fucking conference. Ubisoft has put out 1 billion fucking trailers for it that I'm almost 99% sure that the reason it was delayed was so it wasn't competing with Assassin's Creed 4 anymore, because all of a sudden Assassin's Creed 4 has gotten a huge amount of hype behind it, from people like me that weren't really interested in it before, and then seeing how different it is and all the different things it's doing. Assassin's Creed 4 has gotten so much hype that I don't think Ubisoft wants to compete its franchises against each other. So I'm I'm pretty fucking positive that's why it got pushed back.
And I was going to talk about this. It was announced on an investor earning call. Mm-hmm. That's where this news first came out.
Yeah.
So, and they did say this. They were hoping this would strengthen their finances next year. And I think
it's funny because right after that happened, like their stocks plummeted significantly. I'm sure like they'll probably climb back up as soon as Watch Dogs does come out.
And maybe they can take some time during this delay to tinker with it a little more. But I'm disappointed because I really, really wanted to play this game. I still will get to play it one day. It's not the worst thing in the world. And the nice thing about this, and this is where I really wanted to drive this discussion, is that this is an amazing launch for these systems because even with 2 games I was super looking forward to being delayed, I still have lots of options for games to play day one.
That, and for me, like them actually, and this is one of the reasons why I think they push it back to give Assassin's Creed 4 more space, is because them pushing it back more or less guarantees that I'm now going to buy Assassin's Creed 4.
Me too.
And I was not sure if I was going to be able to because I wanted to play Watch Dogs more.
Yeah.
And now that Watch Dogs has been pushed back, I'm going to want something else to play on my PS4.
Well, then that's where I want to direct this discussion. First is, I don't know if we're talking about this, but I don't know if I told this story on the podcast. I finally kind of solidified my launch day plans for the PS4. I was going to go physical, mainly because I decided it was Bungie that forced me into this, because they announced Destiny, you pre-order it, you get into the beta. I immediately, upon reading that, went to Amazon, pre-ordered it, and I'm like, well, I'm doing physical discs now. And then I decided what games I would get, and I was like, I'm going to do Killzone, Shadowfall, and Watch Dogs Day 1, and that'll be a good Day 1 package.
Yeah.
And you were on those 2 games too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had the Watch Dogs bundle on Amazon, which luckily, when Watch Dogs got delayed, Amazon just sent me an email. It's like, yeah, we're just going to send you the PS4. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay, thank God.
Well, then let's talk about that now. I had this later on the outline, but yeah, they. I was going to ask you which bundle you had because I forgot, and I know
it was the Watch Dogs one.
Yeah, it was up in the air. Amazon, obviously, good stand-up company.
Yeah, they're just like, literally just like 2 days ago, I got the email. They were just saying, hey, we're just knocking this down to a PS4 launch day edition. Don't fucking worry about it.
You're going to get your system.
And it was nice because it's like, I'm not used to companies, like, it was like specifically they said it's like Watch Dogs release date has been pushed back. Like, all the information that I already knew, but like they contained all the information in there for someone who, like, if it was a parent that got it or something that would have been really confused. They put everything in there that you needed to know what the situation was and what was going on. It was like, holy shit, this is like actual customer service. It was really impressive.
Amazon's great for that. That's why you order from Amazon.
Yeah.
GameStop also is honoring all their bundles. Several retailers in the UK, I don't remember their names. But Target, because why the fuck do you pre-order from Target?
I don't know.
They just are canceling the bundles outright and you're not getting a system. And I feel really bad for those people because they probably only went to Target because they couldn't get it pre-ordered anywhere else.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So they're just fucked.
Yeah, I mean, that means, hey, now you just get to line up outside of Target because those fucking they're still getting those consoles that they were going to have pre-ordered, so
it's stupid.
It makes no fucking sense because those Watch Dog bundles, like, it's not like they were a Sony thing. It was just like Amazon was like, hey, you can buy a PS4 and Watch Dogs just together, and we'll just send them both to you in the same fucking box, and that's it.
And I just did a regular launch day edition for the PS4 because I just didn't want to have any rigmarole around it.
I mean, for me, I couldn't do the launch day edition by the time I pre-ordered, so that's why I had to pick one of the bundles, and I just did Watch Dogs.
Nice. So, in any case, it's working out for us. But anyway, let's talk about this. So, we are now both down to... Killzone's not being delayed, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're
that would be disastrous for them, because that was, like... Then they would just have Knack, and Knack obviously does not have, like, a huge appeal to it.
But let's talk about this. What game are you looking to supplement your Killzone experience on day one?
I mean, Assassin's Creed 4 now.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's what you're going to do? I'm having trouble deciding.
Take to the high seas, motherfucker.
Yep. I think it'll either be Assassin's Creed 4 for me, or... I am interested in Knack, honestly.
I'm curious about Knack, but
I want to see a review.
Yeah, I definitely would not get that day one.
But I also want to see reviews on Assassin's Creed 4.
And luckily, Assassin's Creed 4
comes out
the current gen edition comes up relatively soon, so we will see reviews.
Right.
I'm pretty sure, like,
if it's a
Assassin's Creed 4 is going to be good. Like, it's just a question of how good it's going to be, I think.
Yeah, so I'll probably get Assassin's Creed 4. I'm interested in Knack, though, because it's got a co-op mode, which sounds kind of fun, be able to experiment with that. I don't know, it's probably, again, not one I would get day one full price. If it were a $40 game, totally. Yeah. But I think that looks interesting. Now that I don't get a racing game day one, Need for Speed Rivals actually looks really good.
Yeah.
But I might think about that. But yeah, it's kind of got to adjust these plans. But yeah, it's actually kind of liberating because it's like I was never going to play Assassin's Creed 4, but if it weren't like if it was too busy on that launch day. But now that launch day is freed up a little bit, I'll play that high
sales seas cars. Yes.
Racing game.
Pirate Club.
Yes. Team-based pirating.
Yes.
I'd play that.
Sure.
No, it looks good, and I like the idea that they've been very clear that Assassin's Creed 4 is a good place for newcomers to the franchise.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd like to jump on board here, especially because they've also said the modern day stuff is mostly optional.
Yeah.
So you can just ignore it.
I love Assassin's Creed. That franchise, it's so fucking weird. Just everything about it.
You know, we're going to talk about Dracula later. It really is like the epistolary novel tradition where people couldn't figure out how to just tell a fictional story.
Yeah.
And so they wrote it in this epistolary fashion through diary entries and stuff. And now it's like they can't figure out how can we just tell a game in the past? Well, we have to have this modern day framing device.
Yeah, it's so fucking a great franchise. It's just how bizarre it is.
Yep. And man, screenshots of that look like they're going to look really good on the PS4 too.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool.
All the piratey stuff with like the oceans and stuff look really good. I always love really nice water in video games.
I do too. You know, that's actually one of the things I thought was most impressive about GTA 5 was its water effects on current gen hardware.
Yeah.
So next gen water, hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So it's still going to be a good launch day. Plenty of stuff. They announced DriveClub is going to be replaced with a indie game for the PS Plus launch day package.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was? Because you're already getting Resogun. I know that.
Yeah.
That game looks pretty fucking cool for a small downloadable title type game.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Let's look at this. DriveClub update, PlayStation blog. They are going to be replacing it with
drum roll please. Something.
Contrast. It's a
right. Oh yeah, no, that's actually in all seriousness, I have my weird affection for the dude who presented DriveClub at E3.
Yeah.
Contrast is probably going to be a much better game than DriveClub, I think. So that game looks really, really interesting.
It looks good, yeah, and I'm excited for it, and I'm glad that they're not just leaving it out. They are putting in a separate a game that you can play. So that'll be good.
Probably a better game. So.
Right. We'll see. So sounds fun. Kind of interesting. Too bad we won't get to play these games till next year, but 2014 will be what's going on.
I don't know. This seems to happen all the time with you and your computer now. You need to be more stringent with your tabs, my friend.
I do. I want to give the people a good show. I want to have our information up. It bites me in the ass every time.
Yep.
All right, so let's see.
Or you could put your computer on mute or something for the external speakers, but
yeah, I don't know. It always worries me. I feel like for whatever reason, when I mute the volume, somehow the mic will get muted. And
because that makes sense with this external mic plugged in through the USB. If you turn off the internal speakers on the Mac, it's definitely going to mute our mic. So
I don't know how computers work. Anything could happen, right?
No, anything couldn't happen. The internal speakers will be muted. That's what's going to happen.
All right.
It's cause and effect, my friend.
Did you see the video on IGN? I want to talk about this. It's on my outline. Of the Steam controller we talked about a couple weeks ago being demoed?
Yeah. I saw a video of it.
Okay.
It's probably the same video.
I want to talk about it a little bit, because what struck me about it, just because we talked about the Steam controller before, we both said we'd like to see a video of it in use.
Yeah.
It is exactly like using a trackpad to game. I've played Portal. They were showing Portal 2. I've played Portal and Portal 2 a little bit on my trackpad, and the way he kind of, if you watch this video, it's on IGN and other places, that you got your two thumbs on the two touchpads, and the right one is obviously camera and stuff. And the way he's swiping it, it's the same kind of movements. On a mouse, you would pick your mouse up and move it like that. On a trackpad, though, you just swipe, and it's extremely similar. And so that kind of confirms my theory before that this controller will be like gaming on a Mac trackpad. It looks very, very, very similar. Only with your thumbs.
Yes.
And I never, in that whole video, saw him using the face buttons on the front of the controller. He was just using buttons on the back.
I mean, to be fair, he did only play, Portal in Civilization 5, and neither of those, both of those games are basically, when you play it on the PC, you're just using the mouse buttons. So, there's nothing...
But even, jump and shoot portals and stuff was all on the triggers or the back buttons.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I just thought it was interesting that it's functional that way.
Mm-hmm. But I never saw him duck in Portal 2, so...
That's true.
Where is that? Huh? I ask you.
You have to mash all the face buttons together at once.
Yeah. It was an interesting video, but it's also, it's ultimately kind of useless because you don't know, because, one of the things that I noticed was when he was trying to, turn all the way around in Portal 2, it took him, multiple swipes.
Yes, and that's...
to me, that's really troubling. Like, I would not want that at all. Like, that's not...
And I wanted to talk about that, because
like but that also depends on, like, sensitivity of it and everything, so it's like, that video was kind of interesting, but it doesn't contain anywhere near enough, like, information that I would need to know, like, whether or not that controller is actually useful in any way.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about with the trackpad, is that it looks just like gaming on that. And I've said before, I like playing Steam games on my trackpad just fine. You know, best case scenario, I would like, you know, if I were going to do that heavily, I would obviously get a nice gaming mouse.
Yeah.
I just obviously would. Because there are those limitations, like you just noted. You have to do a lot of swipes. It's not as precise. And it looked like that for the controller, so it looks like that's kind of the level of compromise in that kind of control that we're having versus, you know, typical mouse and keyboard controls. So that just interested me, because I think we mentioned that when we talked about the Steam controller. Will this be more like a trackpad? Looks very, very similar. So, yeah. Next thing I had on my agenda, I just kind of collect fun things throughout the week to talk about. And
because there wasn't really any really big news that happened since our last podcast, other than maybe the delays.
Yeah, well, we also heard something out of, if we want to do a little Xbox One news, Microsoft did explain how they will be promising, you know, dedicated servers to cloud gaming for all upcoming Xbox One games.
I mean, they basically have already.
They basically already said that.
Yeah. Although one of the interesting things is that definitely Battlefield 4 and I think also Call of Duty Ghosts are both having dedicated servers, even on like the PS4 side too. So I think that's kind of, I don't know. It's interesting that it seems like Microsoft just giving them free like servers through their Azure service is just having that just means that now that those developers are just free to like buy their own server banks for the other versions of the game. Yeah, it's like interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. So the next thing I wanted to share on here, because just in case you hadn't heard it, I wanted to pipe it in on the podcast here because it's awesome. You know, we here at WGTC Radio are fans of a certain voice actor named Mr. Troy Baker.
Yeah. It's been the year of Troy Baker as far as I'm concerned. What with BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us.
And the upcoming Batman Arkham Origins, where he is stepping into some pretty big shoes, taking over for Mark Hamill as the Joker. Yeah. You know, Sean and I both think Mark Hamill is the best Joker, the definitive Joker.
Yeah, easily.
And I think Troy Baker is about the only person in the world we would trust with this kind of vocal transition, right? Because it's like, he's a damn good actor, he'll get it right. Mm-hmm. Well, we have confirmation of that now. Yeah. Because there's an amazing video. This is from New York Comic Con. He's doing a panel, I believe, on Batman Arkham Origins.
Yes. And he's doing a panel on the Persona 3 movie or something. It's like, hey, do the monologue with the Joker. Like, okay, fine.
And they're asking him about the Joker and his approach to the role. You can see the whole video. I have it on joystick, but it's from YouTube.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and he talks about his approach to the role. He says one of the things that inspired him is Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, which is personally my favorite Batman comic that I've read. Yeah, I really love The Killing Joke, and it's been very. It was the key influence on the Tim Burton film, on the Heath Ledger performance. Mm-hmm. It's obviously very, very influential on modern conceptions of the Joker. Yeah. And he is reading one of the best bits of writing from that. And I want to play this for us on the podcast, because then I want to talk about it a little bit, because it's really cool. Mm-hmm. Especially as Batman fans and Troy Baker fans. So let's play this.
Memories can be vile. Repulsive little brutes like children, I suppose. But can we live without them? Memories are what our reason is based upon. If we can't face them, we deny reason itself. Although, why not? We aren't contractually tied down to rationality. There is no sanity clause. So when you find yourself locked onto an unpleasant train of thought, heading for the places in your past where the screaming is unbearable, remember, there's always madness. You can just step outside and close the door, and all those dreadful things that happened, you can lock them away. Madness is the emergency exit.
All right, so that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely The Killing Joke is like the number one thing I would like to see DC Universe make a 60-minute animated movie of. And my dream would have been Mark Hamill would come back to do that, and he said he would. Mm-hmm. But if they can't get him to do it, Troy Baker, good replacement for Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I really, really love Mark Hamill's performance as the Joker, and also like Kevin Conroy's performance as Batman. Yeah. But I do love to see other really good voice actors try to, take on those roles, because those roles are way bigger than any, one actor can ever, take to it. So, I love to see other interpretations of it, so it's really fucking awesome to see Troy Baker's.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to Mark Hamill's in terms of sort of intonation.
Yeah, but he definitely, he obviously is a big fan of Hamill's performance as well.
Right, but I think there's also some unique things to how he does it here. Particularly the way he kind of savors the verbiage is a little different than how Mark Hamill does the Joker. And it makes me... Mostly I'm saying this as a segue into saying I'm definitely getting Arkham Origins now.
Yeah, it's definitely... That's
a game I'm excited for multiple reasons, but I do... And I don't know how heavy the Joker will be featured in it, but this is a good replacement, and it's really... Troy Baker's got quite a range. Because, Bioshock Infinite is basically his normal voice.
Yeah.
Then Last of Us, you can't even tell it's him.
Yeah.
And here you can't tell it's him.
And then, of course, his number one performance of all time is his Kanji in Persona 4.
Right.
And that's kind of Bookerish in a way, but still it's its own thing.
Oh, absolutely, it's its own thing. So this is just cool. I've realized, because I'm going to talk a little bit about a game I played with Troy Baker in it recently, that he is the first video game voice actor where I will buy a game because he is in it. And it's really weird. I didn't ever think we would necessarily get to that level with video game voice acting, but it's I'll buy a game because this guy's in it. Good work.
Yeah, he's a great fucking voice actor.
Yeah. And that is a tremendous monologue from The Killing Joke. He is right. If you watch that whole clip, he kind of talks about the significance of it, and it's one of the great bits of Joker writing.
Yeah.
And I really love hearing him recite it there. It's like the comic book equivalent of actors reciting Shakespeare on the spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty great. So, yeah, but I've been, I was kind of on the fence of whether or not I was going to get Arkham Origins, just because, but then for a couple reasons, because it's not, made by the same people who did Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
Yeah.
But in any case, I kind of was thinking about it more lately, especially prompted by this clip, and I realized, even if it's a qualitative step down, and who knows if it will be or won't be, Arkham City is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I've said before it's my favorite Batman story. If they can capture a tenth of that will be a worthwhile purchase.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like they get what they're doing just from looking at trailers and stuff.
Well, and I've been reading some interviews lately, and the people involved with it, especially the director of the game, they're very thoughtful about it. They've put a lot of thought into saying, when people ask them, why are you doing a prequel, and they have qualitative reasons for that, and they say there are interesting thematic roads we're going to approach. We've tailored the gameplay in this way. It doesn't sound like this was just farmed out. This is people who really get the property.
And, there's nothing... I mean, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City both also do this, but there's no better Batman story than the Batman story where Batman just, has to spend a, huge chunk of time just, going through a gauntlet of villains.
Yep.
That's, Nightfall in a nutshell. There's just nothing better than that. The Batman character is so perfect for that kind of story.
And I really like the setup of Arkham Origins.
Yeah.
Where he's been a Batman for, a year. It's Christmas, perfect.
Yeah,
Batman,
of course.
Batman and Christmas go together really well.
For some reason.
Yes. It's heartwarming. That's what it is. And basically 8 assassins are after him.
Yeah.
And that's a great setup for a Batman story.
And fuck it, dude. Fight Deathstroke. Deathstroke's fucking cool.
Yep.
He's not in enough, DC stuff.
No. And that's one of the great things about the Arkham games, is they really get to explore sort of the smaller sides of the Batman universe.
Fucking Copperhead is in this game. It's a snake dude. Well, I think they made her a lady in this, but you're really you're digging deep if you're pulling out goddamn Copperhead.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And I pre-ordered it this week. If you pre-order it on Amazon, you get a $10 gift card. So at that point, why not?
Unless you don't want the game.
Yeah.
At that point, then don't.
Yeah. But no, it's good. I can put that towards my PS4 or something. That sounds good. Yeah, well, that comes out next Friday.
Yeah, Jesus, it feels like all of a sudden the video game rush is coming on of all the current gen or split gen games that are coming out right before the consoles, and then the consoles come out.
I'm just happy that
a huge rush.
I'm just happy that besides Arkham Origins, all the games I want to play coming out next week are coming out on the PS4 later.
Yeah,
so I can delay all that. I want to play Call of Duty Ghosts at one point. Don't have to play it week 1.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't anyway. I usually wait on Call of Duty until around Christmas time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you have to wait for that one just to see how much dog is in that game.
If it's 50% dog, I'll play the shit out of it.
Yeah. If it's 99% dog, game of the year, as far as I'm concerned. But
nice. All right. So, yeah, Batman Arkham Origins, we'll talk about that next week. I'm super happy it's coming out on a Friday. Games should come out on fucking Fridays. Makes it way easier to play them.
Yeah.
So, cool. We'll talk about that next week. Let's now talk about some games I've played.
Okay.
I want to do this. So last week I gave you guys an update on Beyond Two Souls. I bought that, started playing it. I have now sold that game.
Oh, okay.
I just got rid of it.
I like how before you said you were going to let me borrow that game like a week ago, and you fucking already sold it.
You don't want to play it. It's not good.
So my warning to you was correct that by the time you get to the end,
I didn't get to the end.
Oh, you didn't even get to the end?
No, I probably got 8 hours in, and I'm like,
that's
I'll explain.
The end is usually the best part, in the fact that it's like always the worst part of the David Cage games.
Well, and I read the ending, and I was because this was part of. I'll tell you the whole story. So I was playing the game. As I said last week, I liked a lot about it, while never feeling that the story was really up to the level they wanted it to be.
Yeah,
that was kind of my comments last week. Had good performances, good graphics, interesting gameplay. As it goes along, though, it's just a case of nothing deepens. The gameplay, if anything, they ease off on the level of interactivity. There is a 90-minute chapter where all you are doing is every once in a while you will hit up to drink your coffee. And it's like, I don't ever need that. That's a terrible part of the David Cage games, is I'm going to drink my coffee or something like that now. No, I don't need that to be interactive.
Yeah, it's like one of the first things you do in Heavy Rain is just get up in the morning and just get dressed and take a shower and go downstairs and try to find some plates, and I could never find. They organized their house in a very weird fucking way in Heavy Rain, because I could never find anything that they asked me to.
Yeah,
David Cage loves to just sit you in for an hour of just mundane nonsense to try to set the tone, and it's I get what he's trying to do, but there's way too much of it. He's cut it a fourth of what it already is.
Absolutely. The mundanity of Beyond Two Souls, those are some of the most compelling parts of the games when they're done well, but when it's just mundane for the sake of being mundane, which is a lot of Beyond Two Souls, boy, it gets dull, because if there's no interactive component, what am I doing? It's it's not interesting to me. I could go, if I want to watch 90-minute cutscenes, I'll go play a fucking Metal Gear Solid game. Because then at least when I'm done with it, I'll get to play something.
Yeah. Or you could just go on YouTube and watch a Let's Play of it.
Yes, very true. But Beyond Two Souls, also, the story just never, ever deepens. And the characters never, ever deepen. It is exactly what you get at the start, what you think it's going to be. It doesn't progress past that. And part of it is they do this out-of-sequence storytelling. Yeah. And for a while, I actually think that works really well, because they do them, each chapter is 30 minutes. And when it's a 30-minute chunk, and you're going through, there's a pace to it that's really addictive. And then you quickly realize there's only 20 chapters in this game. I'm at 15 and I'm 5 hours in. These last 5 chapters are going to be horrendously long.
Oh, yeah.
And they start getting horrendously long, 90 minutes to 2 to 3 hours. And at that point, it's because they're still in this, out of chronological sequence, you don't have context for these scenes.
Yeah.
Even if they're up to 3 hours long, you have no context for them. You kind of know where in Jodie's life it takes place, but you don't really know emotionally where she's at. You don't really know where the other characters are at. You don't know what drove her here specifically, and it's really hard to keep track of because you switch so much.
Yeah.
Exactly what emotional sequence things are happening in.
I watched probably I want to say probably actually 90 minutes of that game, because I watched the Giant Bomb quick look of it. That's just a couple of guys at the Giant Bomb website sit down and sort of play through significant chunks of games, just as a way to sort of see what it is. It's 1,000 times more useful than a review to see that. And so I just watched it, and I definitely got that sense that you're talking about, even just seeing, I mean, what it actually sounds like probably maybe a fifth of the whole game, but just it's doing that non-chronological thing is a really dangerous thing to do when you're trying to tell a story for precisely the reasons you just brought up, of just you don't have the context that the characters have, and that can be useful in a very limited capacity. But when
it's over a 12-hour game,
just how much they cut, it's there's no you need to have an anchor, and it didn't ever feel to me like they had an anchor of this is it's almost I didn't love Man of Steel, but Man of Steel did a similar thing for the first half, but it did it way better in terms of that this is when now is, this is, Clark Kent this is who he is now.
He's wandering.
Yeah, and he's wandering around and he's seeing things that are triggering memories, and then you have probably the best part of that whole movie were the 5 to 10 minute vignettes of his past that they then showed. It's that was 1,000 times better than what it looked like Beyond Two Souls was doing, where it's just there is no now, there is no anchor, it's just oh, here's Jodie when she's 10. Here she is as a spy. Here she is on the run. Maybe she was a spy already. Maybe not. Who knows? And then here she's a kid again. It's you're not giving me anything to grasp onto.
And the worst problem here is that while Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe are giving it their all, and kudos to them, because it is hard to give your all when you're in a mocap suit, and you have nothing to interact with. It's tough, and they really do a great job. But they are not characters. They just aren't. Jodie isn't a character. She is an arbiter that things happen to because we have no context for her, as you were just explaining. And it's even worse with the Willem Dafoe character because what really the scene where I turned off the game, put it in the case, put another game in and never looked back was another scene with him where I realized every single scene that Willem Dafoe is in this game is something bad happens to Jodie. Willem Dafoe comes in, is shocked that people are treating Jodie bad or something bad has happened to Jodie. He comforts her, promises her, he loves her, and then we cut to black because we have to go on to another scene. And for the first couple times that happens, Willem Dafoe is so good that works. It's like, okay, we understand in shorthand he's a father figure, he's very loving, he's protective, he's conflicted. But when that's all there is for a 12-hour game, that's not a character. It just isn't. It's like... It's bad, and you start realizing that's the level of characterization, partly because of this out-of-order storytelling, and also because of that, I never really know what that relationship is between Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page, which I think is the core relationship of the game.
I mean, hey, they're the two people who are on the cover.
Yes. But you don't, because it's all out of sequence, and you never really know what the inception point for their relationship is, how it progresses, how exactly he comes to be a father figure for her, and how she accepts him. That's a big leap. You don't just get put in someone's life and then accept them as your father figure. It's a little different than that.
Well, I mean, you do if it's Willem Dafoe, obviously.
But he's not Green Goblin Willem Dafoe, so it's tougher than that.
That's true.
I would accept that guy. So totally.
Sleep.
See, that's what should have happened. Sometimes she can't sleep. He comes in.
Sleep.
I would have kept playing the game.
Finish it!
All right. So one day we'll just do a podcast, Willem Dafoe's greatest hits.
From Spider-Man 1.
Yes. In any case. So really it just was this... the story doesn't go fuck anywhere. The characters don't go anywhere. And it gets really boring. The scene that just completely turned me off the game is this 2-hour part where you are on a Navajo reservation. And it gets in... Yes.
I know that game goes like kind of all over the place, but I've never heard anything about the Navajo reservation.
I'll tell you about it. So Jodie's trekking through the desert. She gets to this Navajo reservation where this Navajo family lives. And she needs this place to stay for the night. So they let her in. And then the game gets racist. We'll just say that. Because then evil spirits start attacking the place every night. And it turns out,
to be fair, this doesn't because she already has Aiden Pierce, the evil spirit from Watch Dogs, is possessing her or something, right? So there's just already spirit shit going on.
Yes, it's kind of funny how completely connected it is to the Native American stuff. It's not racist. It's just super stereotypical with conceptions of Native Americans and American Indians. So and like the old woman who can't talk, but she finally talks when the spirits come, that kind of thing. It's just kind of funny that way. But yeah, there's all these spirits, and you would think this would be a part with some action-heavy things to do. No, you spend 30 minutes like herding a sheep around, and you'll get water.
It's just the beginning of Red Dead Redemption,
but less interactive. Yes, you have to go get a bale of hay, and then bring it to the barn, and you have to go take a shower. And they do some fan service there,
of course. And
it's just...
Wait, is there any nudity? Because there's nudity in Heavy Rain. Like proper nudity.
No.
Okay.
I mean, she is naked.
Because that would be really kind of unsettling. Because it's so closely modeled after Ellen Page, yes. It would almost just be creepy at that point.
Oh, it would be. And someone... There is a video you can find of someone who had hacked the game and framed it down, and you can see her breasts. You don't see. I
always like when video game people do that. It's not the people who hack it. I understand that, but why? If you know that that's not going to be in the shot, there's no reason to model that.
Right.
At least the nipples. There's no reason to go in and do that part of it.
They were So anyway, but this whole part on the Navajo reservation is just so long, and I realized I don't care about Jodie at this point. They haven't given me any reason to care about her. I don't really understand where this is coming in her life. I don't know how this whole 90 minute to 2 hour episode affects her life. And I just kind of turned off the game I'm fucking bored. I'm going to play Catherine. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then I was just like, this just isn't working for me. And then I went online to Wikipedia. I'm like, does the story ever... If the story gets good, maybe I'll play some more. And I'm like, the apocalypse? 8 different endings? Jodie goes to the infra world. No, I'm out.
Oh, it becomes Insidious. What? Holy shit, it becomes Insidious at the end.
Yep.
Great. Now I want to play the game.
So I was just like, I'm out.
World?
Yep.
Is that where like everything's infrared? Like, why is it called the infra world?
I don't know. I didn't play that far.
So the infra world does not come up at all for the entire section you played?
No.
Okay. Jeez, shit.
Yeah, they don't. It's all brought in at the very end.
So it's more Indigo Prophecy than it is Heavy Rain as far as the storytelling goes. It's just like at the end, it goes super crazy with the supernatural shit.
Well, what's going to happen is, and I looked very closely at the chapters and stuff, there is no plot until like the very end of the game, and that's when they bring all the plot in. Otherwise, it's just jumping around. And then you get to plot at the end. So I was out, and I looked online, and Amazon would take it for $35, and I would get a free DualShock 4 out of it, because they would give me, if I put that towards a DualShock 4, they will give me another $30. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. That's a way better use of this game.
That's a much better investment, because you need at least 2 controllers for a console.
Yep. So that's what I'm doing with Beyond Two Souls. If you bought Beyond Two Souls and are disappointed, get a DualShock 4.
Yeah. I just like how... Just immediately, the shine on that game, like, because before you were really enthusiastic about it.
I was.
And it's like, yeah, no, I just sold the game. Oh, okay. Shit.
Nope. And then I played...
I warned you.
And then I had the complete opposite reaction with the game. Where well, not complete, because I started out liking it. But in terms of...
You didn't start out selling it, and then you started liking it, you're like, I really shouldn't have sold that game. What the fuck is wrong with me?
That's, that's probably happened sometime in my life. I sold a game, then decided to play it again and bought it. That was probably years later. Like an N64 game I'd played that I decided... Yeah, anyway. So the other game I want to talk about that I played recently is Catherine by Atlas. I've completed this game, so I can talk about it a little bit. Hopefully someday you'll play about it so we can do a mini podcast
I'll play about it someday, sure.
Yeah. Any case...
That's a weird phrase to use.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said play about it.
Play it so we can do a podcast.
I'll play about it.
Any case.
Because I do own it. I just haven't got around to, like... I played, like, the first probably 2 hours of the game and just kind of, like, was not in the mood for such a puzzle-heavy game at the time, so I kind of put it away.
Yeah, well, if you're a listener to this podcast, Sean and I are big fans of Persona 3 and 4.
Yes.
3 is both of our favorite games of all time. That team, the Atlas Persona team, after making Persona 4, did this game, Catherine, which came out a couple of years ago. And I've always wanted to play it. Finally, I was like, now that I've given up on Beyond Two Souls, I'm going to finally play this fucking game. Got it off the shelf, put it in, and I wound up playing the entire 15-hour campaign of Catherine in just 4 sittings. And I know this because my first sitting was 2 hours. And then the next day Pokemon came out, and I played Pokemon for a little bit. But then I had a couple really busy weeks, didn't have time to get back to Catherine, and then we're recording this on a Saturday. On Thursday night, I had just finished a 3-hour midterm in school, and that was the end of my busy 2 weeks in terms of, like, I didn't have any responsibilities over the weekend. So I'm like, I'm going to take it easy. I haven't done this for a while. So I sat down at 8 p.m. that night, got home, put in Catherine, was not planning to do this. I logged off of Catherine at 3 in the morning. I got so fucking addicted to that game. That is one of the, if not the longest play sessions I've ever done with a single game. It was crazy. And then the next morning, I woke up, played probably another 5 hours, and then I had to go do some stuff. And then that night, I came back and finished it. I only had like an hour left at that point. And it's a really, really great game. It's obviously not on the same level as Persona 3 and 4. The ambition isn't the same.
Yeah.
It's very different, but it's really great. And if you don't know the story, it's very crazy. It's an Atlas Persona team game. Vincent Brooks, who is voiced by Troy Baker, doing a fantastic performance. This is a tough character to get right, and he really nails it. It's particularly that character's arc and progression over the course of the game. Fantastic work. But in any case, Vincent Brooks, he's a 30-something guy, works in an office, kind of has his life together, but doesn't necessarily want it together. Mm-hmm. He's dating this woman named Catherine with a K.
K, yeah.
And she is voiced by Yukari from Persona 3, Michelle Ruff.
Yeah, that's right.
And Catherine is like a great woman, obviously, perfect sort of wife material. She's like she's got a career.
Yeah, she's really ambitious,
right?
Like very like modern woman, like career woman kind of
right,
girl.
Definitely. So the kind of girl you would normally want to be with, but he's been with her a long time. He's kind of bored, and then also
like he's kind of stressed out because they're at this point where it's like he has not proposed to her, and she of really should, and she's kind of getting on him about it.
Right, and so she wants him to grow up a little bit more, and he always goes to this bar called the Stray Sheep every night. More on that in a minute. And kind of gets drunk with his friends, and one night he meets this girl named Catherine with a C, voiced by Laura Bailey. She's like 10 years younger, she's super hot, she's very basically an amalgamation of the sort of hentai anime girl.
Yeah, sure.
And in any case, they have a one-night stand, he kind of inadvertently starts this affair with her, feels really guilty about it, and he starts having these dreams where every night I love describing Atlas games.
Yeah. It's like, go back to the first time I mentioned Persona 4 that you're in podcast, and just like...
I get to do this now.
How do you describe the plot of this game in, like, 2 minutes?
Yeah. And anyway, every night he has this nightmare where he is climbing this tower made of blocks, and that is the main gameplay puzzle section of the game. And he has to get to the top. There's all these other people in there with him. They all take the form of sheep to his eyes.
And he sort of has, like, sheep horns and stuff. He has, like, his pillow.
Yes.
Because he's also, like, in his boxers.
Right. And you've got to get to the top of that tower. It's very similar to the conception of Tartarus, where you have to get up, and every night is another level, basically, with multiple sub-levels. But in any case...
And then also there's, like, because I remember, and I'm pretty sure I actually have, like, figured out the whole plot of or, like, the main twist of the game in, like, the first hour, but there's also people who are, like, other men who are found dead, like, with their life sucked out of them in their beds.
Yeah, if you fall off the tower, you die in real life. So it's basically all the other sheep
are other dudes.
Are other dudes, and you probably appear as a sheep to them. Is what I think.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's not a spoiler. That's not.
Yeah, that's like I said, I played the first 2 hours of the game, and that's what I know from it.
But in any case, it's a really, really good game. I think it is incredibly smart and socially and thematically interesting in the way the Persona games are. It's very different. It's much more adult. I think it is thematically borderline misanthropic, which the Persona games are not. And I think that's...
the Persona games are ultimately really hopeful.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Catherine is to a certain degree at the end. Catherine also does something, though, not to spoil anything, it has multiple endings, which the Persona games basically don't. They
have a bad ending, but it's like the bad ending is like the wrong ending, effectively.
Right. Yeah, it is non-canonical. There are 8 different endings. Some of them I read up on are silly, and they're intentionally silly, and you're going to know that if you get to that point and you play the game in that way, you're going to get a silly ending.
Yeah, it's like if you play Persona 4 Arena, and then you get the ending where it's like Kanji just magically where Yukiko just gives everyone this like slop of like horrible cooking that makes everyone pass out. It's that kind of ending. Just like, this isn't the actual ending of the game. This is completely ridiculous.
Right, and so, but the other endings, I don't think there's a single canonical or true one, really.
Yeah,
they're all, and you can decide, it's very much it is a JRPG. It's just one where the dungeons are not typical turn-based battle dungeons, they are puzzle platformer dungeons. And otherwise, but it's very much you're role-playing this character to a certain degree in the JRPG fashion, where you kind of understand him at the end, and I think the way you interpret that ending is based on your interpretation of the character and the themes, but I also think the multitude of endings does play into the general misanthropy of the game and its sort of view on modern men, modern relationships, some of that. I think it has a hopeful side to it, but as I said, also the way the multiple endings are structured is really interesting to me, and I would love to talk about it sometime. Yeah. But in any case, the story is great, the voice acting is awesome. Laura Bailey, Michelle Ruff, and Troy Baker, basically, they only voice their characters because they're leads. Everyone else in the game, though, is a Persona cast member, and they all do multiple voices. So Chie is several people. She's great. You've got Yosuke in there all over the place. You've got Akihiko's your best friend.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you've got Colonel Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. I liked that. And the character he's playing looks like Colonel Mustang, so that was kind of nice. Atlas usually puts in one Full Metal Alchemist cast member. In any case, so yeah, that's really cool. It is gameplay wise, it is similar to the Persona games in that they don't make you just play one kind of gameplay the entire time. There's a split. So in the dream world, you're doing this puzzle platforming, which I think is super cool. And then in the real world, though, it's not social links, that kind of thing, but it is a social kind of gameplay system.
Yeah, where it's like, I got to sort of that one, like, I think the first section of that, where you kind of just are in the bar, you can just, like, walk around and talk to people and stuff. That was my favorite part of what I did play.
It's really fun. And then you also, even better than that, I think the best social gameplay system is your phone. You can get text messages from Catherine C and Catherine K and some other people.
Catherine.
Yes. And you can reply to them, and there are multiple replies you can do, and that informs the endings and all this stuff, but it also adds this... It's a deeper kind of role-playing system than the Persona games get into, for instance, where those characters are set a little more in stone. You don't have as much control over them, even though Vincent Brooks is fully voiced and whatnot. So that's all really interesting. I think the puzzle platforming, it's not going to be for everyone. If you don't like platformers at all, Catherine's not going to do it for you, I don't think. But I really like platforming games. I like puzzle games. It very much reminds me of Portal 2 in that this is a puzzle system that looks very it looks either overly complex or overly simple on the surface, depending on where you're coming from, but it is really, really deep underneath.
Yeah.
And when you get into probably 3 levels in and you just know that system, you have this instinctual understanding of it. It is super fast-paced. It's frustrating in the same way as Hotline Miami, where you die, but you're encouraged to do that. It's not, you're not being penalized for dying. And it loads almost instantaneously, same way as Hotline Miami. So I think it's super fun. I had a blast with it. There was only 1 or 2 levels that I thought, I was like, this is bullshit. Other than that, I was like, this is really tough, but it's fair. If I can't figure this out, that's on me. I really love the puzzle gaming, and each level of the tower is very different too. Some of them are straight up puzzles where it's a very short amount you have to go, but the puzzle is very tough. Sometimes it's straight up platforming, like all the boss levels are more platforming, and are really fast paced and fun for that. And then other parts, they add different puzzle systems on top of it. But it works really well. I will say one thing. If you own a PS3 and an Xbox 360, good God, don't buy this on Xbox, because I can't imagine playing it on Xbox, because it uses I don't know how it controls on the 360, I assume it's similar, but you are encouraged very heavily to use the D-pad, and I don't know how you would play that with the analog sticks. It would be way too finicky. I tried doing it with the DualShock analog sticks a little bit, and I couldn't control it at all.
No, I didn't have I didn't have that problem when I played it on the 360.
Okay. I just know, like, having the actual D-pad, because you're not moving in, like, diagonal directions.
It's totally cardinal directions. But it didn't, I never felt like I was not in control of the character when I needed to be.
Okay.
But I didn't play that much of it.
Yeah, well, but I just feel like if you got to the harder stuff especially, you need to be pretty precise, and at least I love the D-pad on the DualShock 3, so it was really, really fun to play it that way. But yeah, if you haven't played Catherine, pick it up. It was 15 hours for me. I played it on easy. Someday I'll go back and play it in normal or hard, because I really like the puzzles. But and it would be significantly longer, I think, if you played it that way, just because of difficulty.
Yeah.
But it's a good length. It definitely knows how to get in and get out. There are some rough patches narratively where you can definitely sense the Atlas Persona team, not having made a fully 3D story-based game like this before, is kind of struggling to adapt to the format. There are definitely scenes that play out like I feel like they should be playing out in the Persona style, where you have a face and a text box and the voice, and then some sprites on screen. And instead it's full 3D, and it's kind of awkward and clunky the way those scenes go. But the fully animated scenes are great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good here. It's a really, really good game. So
cool.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about is a game I obviously have not finished this yet. Just came out last week. But Pokemon X and Y. I got Pokemon Y. I finally played it.
Why did you get Pokemon Y, not Pokemon X?
I liked the cover art better.
Huh.
It was a big red Pokemon.
But
I like
X
red.
is a cooler letter than Y.
It is. You know.
Like, I like saying Pokemon X. Pokemon Y is like, fuck it. Fuck Y.
I mean, they're really, they've kind of gone away from having stringent differences in the games. Like, back, Ruby and Sapphire had a lot of differences, and since then they've kind of toned that down until X and Y are essentially identical except for the Pokemon you find.
Yeah.
And Mega Evolutions operate a tad differently on some Pokemon. But in any case, I'm about 5-6 hours into Pokemon Y.
Like what, in terms of like how many gym badges do you have? That's how I like
Pokemon games. I have 1, but after
okay.
you get your first one, there's a lot of stuff you do before you get to the second. It's structured a little differently than other Pokemon games in that sense. But boy, Pokemon Y, I'll say it up front, this is the Pokemon game I have wanted to play my entire life. Since I heard about Pokemon, since I started playing Pokemon, this is the game I wanted. And the biggest deal people are making about it is the new 3D graphics. And indeed, those are spectacular. They really went all in on this is a 3D Pokemon game. It looks beautiful. The art direction is fantastic. You don't know until you play it how much of a difference it makes having all the people be modeled as people, not as like their head on a pair of legs.
Yeah, it's like with the weird like top-down sprites that they had. Yeah,
it's really cool. They even do a really good job adapting for the fact that the 3DS is stupid and doesn't have a second analog stick. So the camera works very well. It always adapts to where you need it to be. It's very smart in that sense. The battle screens look spectacular. I love it. It all looks great. But what really sets it apart for me, and I never thought I would say this about a Pokemon game, is they made, honest to God, mechanical improvements. And not just improvements, but alterations that make this the Pokemon game I always wanted. And the main thing, there are a couple of things. First and foremost, after the first gym, which you beat that first gym in like under an hour. It's very quick, that first hour, which is really cool. After that first hour, you get EXP Share, which is an item in previous games. I think it was introduced in Ruby and Sapphire. You could put it on another Pokemon, and they would get some of your primary Pokemon's EXP.
Yeah, they would get like half the EXP from the battle.
Yeah. Now, all 6 Pokemon in your party get EXP after every battle, which is awesome.
And it doesn't take any of the EXP or of the XP away from the main Pokemon that you had to fight.
Yep, very true. So you can still choose. Okay, I want to focus on like leveling up my Wartortle.
Yeah.
But if I want everyone else to get XP, they still will, which is really cool. And it means you can. I'll explain some other systems first. But then, so that's improved. The other thing is that they finally figured out. Hey, we have 700 fucking Pokemon now. Why do we keep going through areas where all I see is a goddamn Geodude?
Yeah.
We have 700 Pokemon.
And only like 151. Let's say, like, because I kind of like the gold, silver starters, so let's say like 160 or so Pokemon are actually good.
No, but in any case, you have all these Pokemon. Let's fucking see them. So in this game, when you go through areas, and they've really done a good job adjusting like the actual sort of gameplay areas where there are grass and trainers to go through, it's much more dynamic. It's much more creatively laid out. So far, there aren't caves and shit to go through.
Oh, thank
I
God.
like that. Yeah,
there's not like just like a wall of Zubats that you just have to massacre.
Right. But here's
to
the
get
thing.
To the third gym.
Here's the thing. In every one of those areas, every patch of grass, there are tons of Pokemon. It's not. You will not go through one of these and see the same 3 Pokemon over and over and over again. Maybe there's like 5 to 10. But overall, it'll take a while. You'll have to do a bunch of battles. You capture them. You get XP for capturing Pokemon now. Finally, that's a big change that needed to come since Red and Blue.
That's not a huge deal to me, I guess, because it's
but now
the
you're
amount
encouraged...
of XP you get from like one Pokemon is not a huge, especially when you get to the higher levels. It's like
it's just nice, especially because everyone in your party is getting it. It encourages you to catch everything, and so you catch everything.
Only one thing. One phrase needs to encourage me to catch everything. That's catch them all.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. You just got to say that. I'm like, okay, I'm on board.
Yes.
I'm never actually going to do it, but sure, I'm going to try.
All right. So in any case, you see lots of Pokemon.
XP.
Yeah, but then eventually, you get through an area and you'll start. Then the Pokemon will start cycling again because you've caught everything in that area. And then because the game is structured in such a way where I think it's very clearly telling you don't need to grind in this game anymore.
Yeah.
With the XP share, with the amount of good Pokemon they give you right off the bat, they don't want you to grind. What they want you to do, and this is what I have always pointed out of Pokemon, is they want you to have fun interacting with your Pokemon, catching new Pokemon, discovering new Pokemon, exploring this world, and just moving through it and having fun, and not focusing on all that extraneous shit. Not, God, I need my grass Pokemon stronger because we're coming up on the water gym.
Yeah.
I need to go kill 1,000 Zubats.
Or it's like, oh God, I need to start every single battle with my Magikarp in front and then switch out to my Charmander or something because I want to get a Gyarados, and that's the only reasonable way to get one.
Yep. And so that's just not the case anymore. It's you go to an area, you catch all the Pokemon, and then you move on. And you do some trainer battles because it's fun to experiment with all your Pokemon because you can fight with them all equally now.
And the best part of every single Pokemon game is just whatever the random shit trainers say when you get into battles that just make no sense.
Well, I'll say the writing in this game is much better. Everybody has a lot more character to them. It feels like they did a good job. Like, everyone's just a little peppier. There's just something to the writing where it's really fun to read all the writing in the game. It's really fun. And it's all very, it's child-oriented. It's for children. But it's really good writing. Really fun. And in any case, so this is why this game works to me, is that I can finally have a party of 6 Pokemon, and I can switch that out. Every time I capture a new Pokemon, if I want that on there, I can swap it out at the PC and keep moving on, and they will quickly level up to where I need them to be. And I can just, every battle, it's like, okay, this time I want to battle with my Pikachu, which you get right off the bat, which is awesome. You get your fucking Pikachu in the forest.
Yeah, fuck Pikachu, dude.
I like Pikachu.
This is corporate whore Pikachu just on all the merchandise. Just like Pikachu, I don't like Pikachu.
Okay,
Pikachu.
I'm sorry, but anyway, you can just swap them all out, play however you want. In trainer battles now, every time it asks, "Do you want to switch your Pokemon?" Fuck yeah, I do, because I want to just cycle through. It's so much more fun. This is, I think, the core of Pokemon. Is, I've complained before about they don't have super in-depth stories. The battle system isn't super in-depth, but I think what X and Y have done is they've refocused on what is the appeal of Pokemon, and the appeal is these creatures and this world, or these worlds, and that you just get to go through, have this sense of adventure, make these friends with your Pokemon, go around, have them battle to the death, and catch new ones and explore and discover, and that sense of exploration and discovery has never been stronger because you are actually encouraged by the mechanics to do those things rather than discouraged, which I feel like is every other Pokemon game. You could understand it when it was Red and Blue because it was their first time out, and it was a much older game console.
Yeah, for fuck's sake, it was like made in 96.
So it's fine. But then the fact that they never, ever, 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 ever innovated on any of those systems got super fucking annoying. And now it's just, you get to play it in such a way where what you do is you meet new Pokemon, you get to discover all this stuff and go around the world and have fun and feel like you're on an adventure. And that's what I want Pokemon to be. That's what I wanted it to be when I started playing the games because I thought the cartoon series was fun.
Fuck the anime too. Everything Pokemon that's not Red and Blue, fuck it. Just fuck all of it.
But you said before this podcast,
yes,
Sean,
but there is one because I saw like a bunch of videos on this because I was curious about it. And because I had heard rumors in the dark of something amazing that they do in Pokemon X and Y, and that is about an hour into the game after you get your first badge. I think it's when you go to
the professor.
Oh, for God's sakes, like
Professor Sycamore.
Yeah, fuck all that. I hate Nintendo games because they just do this. Like every single game is the exact same. It's like you meet the professor, you have the 8 gyms. It's like you get your HMs, like all that. I hate that design philosophy. But you get to your professor, and then he's like, hey, man, I've got the 3 best Pokemon that were ever made. I've got a fucking Bulbasaur, I've got a fucking Squirtle, and I got a fucking Charmander. Pick one, motherfucker.
It's great. And you battle them first. So it's this sense of, it's like, oh my god, he has a Charmander! There's a Squirtle! And they're all in 3D and a Bulbasaur! This is so cool, I just got to see them.
And now you're going to beat the shit out of them, and now I'm going to get a Charmander. Because why would you pick anything other than Charmander? But, I got
myself a Squirtle, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to import my level 90 Charizard from Heart Gold later when that's available.
Sense.
So yeah,
sure.
And that Charizard is several generations old now because I think I got him in Leaf Green, and I've just moved him up through the iterations. So yeah, that Charizard is seasoned.
This is an old fucking Pokemon.
Yes,
but yeah, no, that's something that because they have gotten each game has had worse and worse and worse starting Pokemon, partially because they're so, again, with their, every single game has to be effectively the same. It's just why does every single game have to have a fire, water, and grass starter? Why? There's just because the first game had it, that's not a good reason. It's with Legend of Zelda, there's no reason every single Legend of Zelda game needs to have a fucking water or forest temple, a fire temple, and a water temple in that order at the beginning. That's not... Fuck you. Just because that's how it first was doesn't mean it has to be that way all the time. But they should just let you pick a starter from any of the generations. So it's if you want a fucking Charmander, get a Charmander. If you want a Chikorita, get a Chikorita. If you want fucking Trico, because he's the only worthwhile starter past the first 2 games, you can get a Trico. Past that, fuck you.
And I'll say I don't have the same opinion Sean does, where I do think obviously Red and Blue had the best Pokemon. There's no question about that. And they've gotten weaker since then, but I still think part of the appeal is it's fun to see the new designs and whatnot. And
except for all the new designs suck.
They don't.
Have you seen the only one of the new starters that I thought looked kind of cool was Finnegan, the Firefox, which they've already have a fucking Firefox. It's called Vulpix that evolves into Ninetales. Yeah. But then I saw Finnegan's evolutions.
It's terrible.
And they are fucking ugly as shit. All of them.
If you let me finish my point.
Terrible.
If you let me finish my point.
Fuck you and your point.
Okay. No, and I agree. A lot of the Pokemon look terrible, and I picked Chespin because I thought Chespin looked cool. He evolves into the single ugliest Pokemon ever. It's terrible. But I still kind of like the sense of discovery. And the balance, though, that they've struck here is that since you kind of equally see Pokemon from across the whole history of the series, you're constantly running into old friends. Pokemon that you really loved. You get your starter from the original Red and Blue, that kind of thing. They give you a Torchic as a mystery gift right off the bat, which is fun. So I have a starter
of... They should give you a Trico, though. Again.
Trico's cool. I like Trico. I like Torchic, too, though. In any case... But yeah, so you're seeing new Pokemon all the time, and I think some of the new Pokemon designs here are kind of fun. And some of them are just surreal and weird, like the Pokemon that is a sword. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's just a sword with a hilt.
What's its name?
I forget.
Like Swordy or something?
I don't know. But anyway, so it's just kind of fun, and because again you're encouraged to use whatever Pokemon you want. You're catching new ones all the fucking time. It's really cool. If you think one of the Pokemon designs is ugly, whatever, catch it, put it in your PC, you never have to look at it again. But there still is that kind of rush of every time I go into battle, more often than not, I'm seeing something new. And I think that makes it so exciting. It makes me want to do battles, which I thought I would never say about Pokemon again. Because this game, the Pokemon gameplay system is obviously really simplistic, but I think the way they've encouraged you to just use your Pokemon and have this variety, it makes it fun. Because the fun there isn't a complex battle system, and I don't blame them for not making the battle system complex. It is an RPG for children. It's okay. But, still making it in such a way where I'm excited to do those battles just because I get to use my Pokemon, that's what it should be. That's what this series should be. They've focused in on that and made a game that is, to me, exactly what Pokemon should be. So I really like that.
Then you can get a Charmander, so
yeah.
I really like that.
Yep. So you're going to buy a 3DS to do this? To get this?
Maybe at some point in the future.
A 2DS?
When Pokemon Z comes out, and then I can get a 3DS a lot cheaper, maybe.
Yes. They do have, they are selling refurbished original 3DSs now for $109 from Nintendo. So if you're looking in the market, don't get a 2DS, get an actual 3DS for even cheaper.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually, use all the features.
Except for not on really Pokemon X, because from what I understand,
it doesn't have
most
3D.
Of 3D is gone, other than the battle system where it kills the frame rate.
Well, yeah, and it is kind of interesting. Yeah, the 3D is not there, and if you turn it on in battle, it is immediately noticeable. The frame rate disappears. There is no frame rate, and it's kind of funny. And I think you can tell they are taxing the 3DS hardware as far as it will go, and that's why there is no 3D. And that's kind of sad. Nintendo did not make a future-proof machine here.
Yeah.
But by features, I actually am really more referring to, if you don't like the 3D, turn it off, whatever. But you can also, with an actual 3DS, you can flip it closed, protect your screens.
Is that really a feature?
I mean, like that.
I don't care about that.
It's not an ugly piece of shit like the 2DS.
Sure. But again, that's not really a feature. It's not something put on the back of the box. It's not an ugly piece of shit. All the Pokemon are that are not the original, but
in any case. So, pretty impressive. Kudos to you, Nintendo. I'm playing this game pretty casually right now. It's not something that I'm, like, super, super into, but it's like, I as a Pokemon fan, I was happy to come back to this world.
Poke fan, you're like one of those people I run into, and then I have, like, a trainer battle, and then you've got, like, 5 Clefairies that all just know pound, and that's it. Just like, what the fuck are you doing with your life, Poke fan Jonathan?
I know, but there's just it's impressive to me because there's a sense of magic to this game I've not felt since I was a little kid playing Pokemon, like literally for the first time. So that's awesome.
Yeah. One thing that's like just really kind of weird that I noticed just from like the videos I watched is that all the Pokemon basically have the same, like they're better sounding, but they're the same like sort of like screechy noises that they make.
Yeah, they kept...
except Pikachu.
Yep, Pikachu's
who
got...
goes Pikachu.
Pikachu is fully voiced,
which is cool that they did it with Pikachu. I don't understand why they didn't do that with at least most of the Pokemon, because at least with the original fucking 151, you've got, like, I saw the anime motherfuckers, you've got those noises. Like, you can just put that in the fucking game. At the very least, your Squirtle can go Squirtle, you know?
But the battle animations are cool. Most animations have unique attacks. It's really awesome when Squirtle uses a water gun. The camera flips around, focuses on him. He sends it out, and then it flips back around and shows it hitting the other Pokemon. It's very much like Pokemon Stadium, if you've played that. Which, Pokemon Stadium is awesome, so...
And I like how I saw, in like the video I saw, that was like mostly like really early stuff, so every single Pokemon at the beginning has Tackle. But the Tackle one is just like... The Pokemon moves a little bit forward. The camera basically just zooms in closer on the Pokemon you're fighting, so you don't see your actual Pokemon, and you get the sense that he kind of like pushes forward, and that the Pokemon gets hit. So the Tackle thing still sucks. The Tackle is still basically just what it originally was, which is like the sprite just goes like shifts to the right a little bit, and then the other guy gets damaged.
Yeah, and so there are some things like that, and the Pokemon don't typically make contact with each other, which I understand. That's a graphical limitation.
That's what I want. If I like have a Pikachu and then I'm fighting like a Charmander, and I tell my Pikachu to tackle Charmander, I want my Pikachu to run head first at Charmander and just like tackle him to the ground, and then I tell him to do like Quick Attack, and he just starts like punching the Charmander on the ground. I tell him Thunder Shock, and then he like grabs the Charmander's head and just like electrocutes his brain, and then he dies. That's what I want to happen.
Well, and hopefully, when the 4DS comes out, it will be powerful enough to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So in any case,
and then I want to throw out a Charmander or a Charizard and want my Charizard to eat the other trainer. Like I want to. Have you run into the Team Rocket equivalent of this game yet?
I think I've seen a little preview of it, but no,
so
not.
They're still doing the same fucking thing.
I don't know. It seems like it's different in this one because I'm 5-6 hours in, and we've met someone who seems to be related to the professor, who has like a they used to be friends. He has a beef with him, but I don't know if a team is coming out of it or not. I just know this guy seems to be up to no good, but we don't know how yet. I mean, yeah, there isn't a story here necessarily. It's a little more robust in terms of there are a lot more characters. Like
I saw that you have like a whole like team of like your friends instead of just like
funny story.
Smell you later, man.
Yep, you have a whole team of friends, who are all like very sort of peppy, vibrant. They're not vibrant characters. They're all one dimensional.
Yeah,
but they're
all
fun.
walking stereotypes. Yes.
Yeah, but they're fun to interact with. But also, they will call you by a nickname that you get to choose. So what I did, I always now in RPGs where I just pick my name, I name myself Aniki, which is the Japanese term for elder brother of the Yakuza.
Yeah.
So I always think it's kind of funny, and I get a chuckle out of it. It's extra good in Pokemon, because now all of my friends will run up to me and say, Aniki-sama! I love it. So yes, and you could probably make that perfectly vulgar if you wanted to.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, and then you can like take screenshots of it and post it on Reddit or something.
Which
is what everyone does with Legend of Zelda games.
Yes. You want me to tell you a funny story about something like that?
Sure.
So my brother got a hold of my Animal Crossing DS game one time.
Sure.
A couple months ago. My brother, I should keep in mind, he's like 17 or 18. I should know how old he is. I think he's 18.
Yeah. You should probably know how old he is.
He's 18. He's 18.
Okay.
He's graduated from high school. So he's way more old than he should be for doing what he did. But in Animal Crossing, you can have your animal friends, you can specify what they will say to you every time they greet you, because they all talk, they like do an honorific at the end, and they translate it into something in English, and then you can change that in Animal Crossing. He had the like wolf guy, every time he came up to me, call me cum guzzler.
No, he's not too old. Nobody's too old to do that.
Okay.
That's great.
Yes, and I didn't even know he'd done it.
If the wolf came up to you and said butthead, then he'd be way too old for that, because that's like, that's kindergarten shit.
All right.
Cum guzzler? Nah, that's great.
Yep. So
that's
every
perfect.
Every time this
that's
guy
so foul. That's amazing.
All right. So Sean, you want to talk Dracula?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great. This is a great fucking segue into one of the best films ever made. Let's just jump right in.
Dracula, the cum guzzler.
Sake,
Well, you want to talk about something else first? Put a buffer between them?
Is there even anything else to talk about?
You haven't seen the new Doctor Who episodes yet, right?
No, I have not.
Okay. I'll tell you right now, I'm not through this serial yet, but if you want to see a fantastic Doctor Who episode, buy the newly discovered The Enemy of the World. It's on iTunes. Patrick Troughton plays a dual role. He is both the Doctor, obviously, and the villain, Salamander, who is Spanish. And it's so good. It's such a good serial, for one. It does not have, so far, the pacing issues a lot of Doctor Who serials have. They pack a lot of story into these episodes. And then also, Patrick Troughton is just so good. It's a really good serial, very well balanced. And now I really want to see the alternate universe where Patrick Troughton played Khan in Star Trek, because he's basically doing the Khan voice. It's awesome. So...
Okay,
now Dracula.
Yeah, now let's talk about Dracula.
Okay, so Sean, give us a little bit of history on this movie, why we should watch it, why it's important.
I mean, it's so, as far as horror films go, as far as like the horror genre goes, it's so old. And for like, if you want to watch for like really good horror films, you can just go back to the fucking 20s and watch really amazing like silent horror films, like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, like Phantom of the Opera, like Nosferatu, and those are all like. I think horror, that genre, is so embedded into the history of film and, like, what we did with it, that like, still some of the best examples of that genre go back to the very roots of film itself. And then Dracula is one of the first ones in sort of sound made by Universal that sort of kicked off that era of, like, the Universal horror monster movies with, like, Dracula, with Frankenstein, with the Mummy, with the Wolfman, all those, like, Creature of the Black Lagoon. And there's some of my favorite movies. They're like ones that I grew up with, that my dad grew up with, kind of introduced them to me. And now sort of I watch them, like, or at least most of them, or whichever ones I feel like watching on Halloween. I usually at least watch Dracula and Frankenstein every Halloween. And they're just some of the best movies, in my opinion, that have ever been made. They have a great understanding of tension. They're adapted particularly Frankenstein is adapted from one of the best novels ever written. Dracula's maybe not one of the best novels ever written, but it's still a damn good book. It's a damn good movie. It's a damn good story, and it's an amazing idea. It's an amazing, just like Dracula is such an amazing character, and then also like Abraham Van Helsing, he's a great fucking character. And watching those characters interact, it's one of my favorite things to do. I just love these movies to death.
Yeah.
So, and Dracula's definitely one of my favorites, and just one of the reasons why I picked it for our Halloween viewing. Next year we'll probably do Frankenstein.
Sounds good. So Dracula comes out in 1931, start of that wave of Universal monster movies. I've been learning. I'm in a film history class, and actually, it's kind of funny. We decided to watch Dracula right now because I've learned some stuff that is very relevant to this. You mentioned Nosferatu earlier. Mm-hmm. Now, Nosferatu is by the great F.W. Murnau, German filmmaker. It's made in the early 1920s. It's a silent film, and what we should say that the Universal monster movies actually evolve out of sort of foreign filmmaking models, which is really interesting. Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau. If we go back to actually Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which we mentioned, another great horror movie. If you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful silent film. And that is a classic example of German expressionist filmmaking. And at the same time, in America, we had a very different kind of silent film aesthetic. We were already kind of getting into the sort of three-point lighting, no shadows, diffuse the light, that kind of thing. And whereas in German expressionist filmmaking, the cinematography it's a little more static. Really, what they're focusing on is mise en scène. Yeah. But what evolves out of that, and what F.W. Murnau is very significant in, is what's called Kammerspiel. And Kammerspiel is an evolved form of German expressionism. And Kammerspiel is where cinematography really enters the fray. It builds on top of the mise-en-scène elements of films like Caligari, but now the camera starts moving. The visuals are more dynamic. They start making use of shadows, these very deep blacks in the black and white. And the camera moves. And the cinematographer who shoots this movie called The Last Laugh, and a lot of other F.W. Murnau movies, but I just saw this one called The Last Laugh. He did not shoot Nosferatu, but Nosferatu is an early Kammerspiel film. But the cinematographer in question is Karl Freund. He works with F.W. Murnau, is very significant in basically putting into practice the cinematography elements of Kammerspiel, and it's just some beautiful German films from that period that this Karl Freund shoots and F.W. Murnau directs. Karl Freund winds up coming to America, and he is the cinematographer on Dracula. So there is a very, very clear connection between Dracula and the other Universal monster movies. Karl Freund also shot The Mummy, and he may have shot in a couple others. I know he did not shoot Frankenstein, because they came out right around the same time. But in any case, and Karl Freund... So the cinematography in Dracula is absolutely Kammerspiel cinematography, in that it's these deep shadows, these deep blacks, this very dynamic frames with this high contrast. Hollywood was not doing that generally at the time. Mostly we do not have shadows in Hollywood films at that time that are in black and white. And that's why the Universal films stand out in that way. And this really wonderful sense of production design and mise-en-scène in Dracula, that's also very German in origin, I think. And I think that's really super interesting, because that's, to me, these are the two best things in the movie besides Bela Lugosi are the visuals. I love it. And in any case, Karl Freund should see. He's also, Karl Freund, fun fact, his other contribution to cinema and television is that he invented the multi-camera sitcom. Because he was the cinematographer on I Love Lucy, he invented the system of shooting in front of a live studio audience. We set up 3 cameras in various positions, then you can do it all in one take. But we have multiple points of view. We still use that system to this day on the biggest sitcoms on television, which I think is super interesting. So the guy who shot Dracula also gave us shows like the basis for shows like The Big Bang Theory.
That's a weird connection.
No. But in any case, I just think this is super interesting because there is this style to the Universal monster movies, and I think to Dracula that it's not Kammerspiel in narrative logic and flow. It's got more characters. It's got less of a focus on what we would call psychological interiors and things like that. But visually, I think it's really cool how it blends some foreign aspects back into Hollywood filmmaking.
Yeah.
So why do you love this movie, Sean? Because I know this is just one of your favorites.
Probably, it's just got such a fantastic atmosphere to it, really. I mean, because, if you're watching anything, honestly, regardless of the medium, anything that's really early in that medium, you can go to video games, you can go to movies, you can go to, novels or, oral storytelling. The origins of those mediums always, the characters and story elements are super, super basic, and that's definitely true here in Dracula. There's not a huge amount of complexity. It's you're not going to sit there like you would with Citizen Kane and once you're done just be running through sort of the thematic elements and what the movie was talking about, what the characters were going through, and sort of trying to deconstruct them and analyze them in your head. That's not what this movie is about. That's not what, like I said, early examples of any sort of medium really are about. But what you can take from it is just the sensation of it, just the pure atmosphere, just the sense of dread, and then like you said, the great use of the shadows and the huge, the pure blacks that are in this movie that just makes such a fantastic use of the black and white photography that you just sit there and just soak the movie in instead of watch it. And that's why, and it's what makes it such a great, and like most of these movies, like Frankenstein, great Halloween movies. This is just like, you're not sitting there like thinking about it. You're not like trying to engage with it on that level. You're just experiencing it. You're just like feeling the movie, and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, in addition to all the blacks you were talking about in the cinematography, I think mise-en-scène is really important here. The story is very, very theatrical. It's got a very... It's I
mean, it is based on a theatrical adaptation of
right.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, and so it basically... It moves forward narratively like a play. It's a very small story. It's very contained. And that was a little hard for me to adjust to. I should say this was my first time watching Dracula. And I found it really historically fascinating, and I liked elements of it. It didn't completely grip me, but I was really interested in certain elements of it. And I think what's so fascinating is that contrast between the very theatrical, scenario narrative style, and then the absolutely 100% cinematic mise-en-scène. Yeah. The sets in this movie are incredible. From that first scene where you're in Transylvania and you go to the castle, and both the way that set is shot and lit and built. Oh my God, we don't have anything like that today.
Yeah.
We just don't have mise-en-scène that good in most movies today. And the atmosphere that comes out of it, and how the actors use the space. Bela Lugosi, not only does he know how to use that space, the camera knows how to use him. And the lighting knows how to use him. And those sorts of things. And it's this complete, melding of all these different mise-en-scène elements. And then when we get to London, it doesn't go off a cliff. It gets even better in parts.
Yeah.
Like my favorite shot in the movie is at the end where Dracula is taking Mina down the stairs, and his assistant is there too. And
Renfield.
Yeah, Renfield. And they're going down the stairs, and this is massive staircase. And this shot is huge.
Yeah.
It would be awesome to see on like an IMAX, that shot. It's amazing. I don't know how they built that or where they went to shoot that.
Yeah.
But there is this dynamic black and white contrast to it, and it's amazing. The atmosphere there really is tremendous.
Yeah, and it's something that part of it is that I've seen this movie so many times, but like when you just like describe a shot, I can see the shot perfectly in my head, and that's sort of like, I think that's something integral to like the way the movie is shot. That's like, it's so memorable, like it's so striking. Just every single like image in the movie just like is ingrained in my head, and partially because it's something that I just really love about older films in general, and sort of it's also like it's kind of like. Going back to like old Doctor Who, it's something that Doctor Who shares that is sometimes a problem, but ultimately something that I appreciate, and one of the reasons why I really love it is I like stuff that takes its time. I like stuff with a slower pacing. It's a little harder to get through, but it's ultimately a lot more rewarding, I feel, because it's just like allows you to feel the experiences, like I said, to sort of like soak in it, and just like it feels much more natural. Whereas modern versions of storytelling are like, I would say, technically more capable. They get what they need to get done, and they do it, and they move on, and it's very efficient. But it's like sometimes you don't want that efficiency. Sometimes you just want to sit there and watch Dracula walk down the stairs to like the coffins where the brides are. It's like you just want to sit there and watch like each single step and just like feel that suspense and feel that like that tension that is just naturally there from the presence of the actor and the way the scene is shot.
Well, and something that is similar to me from this film to certain Kammerspiel films, to certain German Expressionist films and films of this period, is that this is technically a feature-length movie. It is short form in narrative, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a short story version of Dracula, but they do it over 75 minutes, and that breathing room is often what is scary about it. And I do think there are parts of this movie that are legitimately haunting.
Yeah.
Even today. Mostly anytime Bela Lugosi looks at you.
Yeah. Anytime Bela Lugosi does anything, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're a scary motherfucker.
And they use him fairly economically in the film.
Yeah. He's not like everywhere. He's not in every single shot whatsoever. It's much more focused on Jonathan for the whole thing. Harker.
Well, Harker doesn't come into it until about 30 minutes, and then he's pretty minor. It's mostly Van Helsing, I think, in those scenes.
No, because Jonathan Harker, he's the dude who comes in from the beginning. Like, he goes into the castle at the beginning.
No, that's Renfield.
No, isn't that Harker?
It's in the book, it's Harker. In the movie, it's Renfield.
I'm getting mixed up then. But yeah. But yeah, okay, then it's Renfield and Harker for most of the movie.
Yeah. Well, it's an ensemble piece, really, I feel like. You've got Renfield, you've got Harker, you've got Van Helsing, who kind of drives the action. But yeah, and then Lugosi, they use him heavily in the beginning, and then he kind of punctuates things from there on out. And he'll come in moments where you can kind of foretell he'll come in. Maybe we see a bat, maybe we don't.
Yeah.
But then he's there, and and then he has this look on his face. Let's talk about Lugosi.
Sure.
He's doing something very interesting in this film.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things. Mostly in that he isn't afraid to just be evil. And not in the sense that we talk about evil today, where evil today is very much sort of the Heath Ledger Joker model of this scheming,
he's not this, like... If you want to, like, bring in really nerdy, like, Dungeons and Dragons, like, moral alignments, he's, like... the modern evil is like that chaotic evil. It's the Joker where it's like, he doesn't give a fuck. He just, like, kills people. He's just totally crazy. Dracula is lawful evil. Like, Dracula is noble, he is powerful, he's economical, he will stand there and he will just look at you and strike terror in your heart just by looking at you. It's not like, you know, his sheer existence terrifies you. It's not what he does, it's just that he is what's scary about it.
He's a force of nature.
Yeah.
And he has no, you very clearly sense he has no sort of, these are compulsions for him. He doesn't necessarily have control over his nature, but he's learned how to systematize it.
I mean, he's effectively just Satan in the movie. Like he is that, like, classical archetype of evil. Like, he is pure walking evil, and that's it. And it's like, he is smarter than you, he is stronger than you, he has plans, and you are fucked because he has these plans and because he is so powerful.
Yes. And so, you know, you see in the beginning he chews a lot of scenery in the beginning where he's talking to Renfield in the castle, his first "I am Dracula" lines and things like that, and he's kind of toying with this kid. But from there on out, it's a lot of him just giving looks and kind of being there and not necessarily having a plan. Like, I was kind of waiting the whole movie. Does he go into London because he has a plan? Not necessarily.
I mean, he does, but they never tell you. Like, the movie does not linger on its plot whatsoever. No. Like, it never really makes it clear what the fuck Dracula really wants to do. Like, he wants to take over the world. That's what Dracula's plot actually, like, his plan actually is. They don't really do anything with that. They don't tell you about it.
But mostly what you just sense is that he kind of goes from place to place, person to person, and he kind of just gets into this evil trance state, and he puts them into this trance state, and he feeds and moves on from there like a wild animal, but a wild animal with intelligence, and that's what makes him terrifying. Yeah. And boy, they figured out a great shot of Lugosi with the patch of light across his eyes, and they use it everywhere. In this movie.
It's just, he's got the greatest face and, like, the best, like, stare.
Yes.
Like, you would not want to get in a staring contest with that man. Like, it would destroy you inside.
Did Lugosi play Dracula more after this?
I think so, because, I can't remember. Like, because, you know, spoilers, Dracula dies at the end. So it's like, Bela Lugosi is not in the Dracula sequels, like Son of Dracula that they made, but he definitely played Dracula again in something. I just can't, my mind's blanking on what.
I'm looking up his filmography here, because I'm just curious. It disappointed me a little bit how easy it was to kill Dracula at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Did it disappoint anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's, like, I just sort of take for granted because I saw this movie as a kid that it's like, it's a technical flaw, but, like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just kind of how the story goes. Because since they adapt so minorly from the book that it's just like, you don't get any sort of the grandness of the climax of the book. Where they, like, race and, like, chase him back to Transylvania using, like, Mina and stuff. You don't get that, like, big final battle where, like, they cut off his head and shit.
Yeah, so that kind of is just like, he seems so in control until the last 5 minutes when he goes and hides and thinks they won't find him, and then they do, and they just put a stake in him.
Yeah.
That's a little dull. But, you know, the visuals around that scene are fantastic, because that's the staircase sequence. Mm-hmm. But I
mean, it's also like, you know, Frankenstein also very much has that problem of, like, the adaptation of the source material is incredibly weak. Like, it's much more striking for Frankenstein in that the Frankenstein story is way, way, way better, but it's like... But I guess it's not what that movie's about, so it's it doesn't really bother me at all.
Didn't ruin the movie or anything. It's just like, I wanted Dracula to win.
Yeah,
I thought all these other people were like, these are boring.
I mean, in all like the Dracula stuff, I always kind of feel like Dracula should win because I don't really care about Carker and Mina. Like, the only one is like
Van Helsing. Is cool.
And Van Helsing is it's Van Helsing and Dracula are the only characters I really, and Renfield. I like Renfield.
Yeah, Renfield is kind of funny because I think that actor does a really good job. Where in the first scene, I'm like, oh god, this is just kind of typical Hollywood nice boy kind of thing. This is kind of dull. But then when he takes that turn, he does a great job.
Great with his crazy. That's why I didn't remember it's Renfield, because Renfield in my head is when he's fucking crazy.
Right. But no, and I think that's actually
Rats!
And in retrospect, he's doing something very effective in those early scenes to set up that contrast.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. And at the end, when he's pleading for his life with Dracula, and Bela Lugosi doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, don't give no fucks. Dracula don't. But yeah, no.
Yes, and this is a real vampire, boys and girls.
Yeah,
this is fucking afraid of Wolfsbane, the cross. He's got to sleep in his own dirt.
Yeah. It's like this. I mean, it's fucking Dracula. Of course,
Right.
This is like proper vampiric mythology. It's not this modern Anne Rice fucking Twilight bullshit.
Yeah.
Like or like True Blood, where it's like, oh, vampires have like superpowers, and this. Fuck you. The only superpower a vampire has is that they're awesome, and that you are not awesome. That's their superpower, basically.
Yes. So what else do we want to talk about here? We should talk a little bit about Professor Van Helsing.
Sure, yeah. Abraham Van Helsing. Yeah. Like, Van Helsing, he's just one of, like, the great, like, even just, like, going beyond this movie in terms of, like from the literature, he's just one of, like, the best characters ever. Like, Van Helsing's so fucking cool. Just, like, this old German professor dude who just kind of, like, shows up and knows everything about the supernatural. Like, he's basically... of like Giles from Buffy, only like 1,000 times cooler. That's what Van Helsing is.
He's also what I thought was interesting in this movie, and I don't know if anyone else would sense this, but I kind of sense that he's in this because he's fascinated by it. He doesn't actually care about these people he's helping.
Yeah.
He seems very amoral to me, and I think that sets up an interesting contrast here, where he is kind of nuts himself.
Yeah, and there's a great sense of mystery about him too.
Yes.
Of just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, how does he know all this stuff? Like, he's the only dude who, like, when he and Dracula sort of stare each other down, where you're like, holy shit, like Van Helsing kind of can hold his own just, like, with his presence. And there's that great sense of mystery to the character of that they don't reveal anything about it. Little do you know that he's actually Hugh Jackman, and that he fought Dracula and Frankenstein's monster and Wolfman before, but that's another movie.
Isn't that movie supposed to be terrible?
It's not that bad.
Okay.
It's not great, but it's not a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
I would say it's worth a watch if you like these like Universal horror movies, because there's a lot of great throwbacks to those.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, no, he's not actually Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Like, that's like, you know, if you want, like, if you're really serious about like the mythology of Dracula, you would really hate that movie because it kind of does ruins that aspect of the film of just like, you want that mystery of, like, you don't want to know where the character came from. He is like Hugh Jackman in the sense that he is like Wolverine. You don't give a fuck where Wolverine comes from. You don't give a fuck about his past. You just like that his past is mysterious, and you want to see what he does now.
Right. Yeah. And then all the other characters are pretty stock.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like not much to say about, like, Mina Harker.
No.
Never much to say about Mina Harker.
Although I actually think that actress does a fairly good job of standing.
She's good, but she's not like, I don't know. There's
Like, I found the Jonathan Harker performance aggressively boring. I didn't think that about Mina.
Yeah, well, you should watch Bram Stoker's Dracula, where Jonathan Harker is played by Keanu Reeves with a British accent.
That sounds pretty good.
It works out about as well as you could imagine.
Which is to
You
say...
should have watched that fucking movie, too. That'll be next year. We'll watch Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Is that Gary Oldman as Dracula? in that?
Yeah. Gary Oldman's actually really good in that
I'll
movie.
watch the shit out of that.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves is not very good in that movie. If you want to talk about, like, a performance that is boring, watch Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula. He will put you to sleep.
Okay, nice. So that's his superpower.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But no, I think I like the fact that Dracula in this movie just decides basically he is going to harass this family.
Yeah.
And do it in the most spectacular, like, you know, supernatural way possible.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So what else is there to say?
I don't know, like, there's not, it's like one of those things where it's like, it's an amazing movie, like, I think everyone should just see this movie, because it's part of our cultural heritage, especially if you're American, you need to see this movie, like, it's just one of those things like this, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, you have to watch these movies, because it's like, it's ingrained so deeply into the thread of American culture, that you are losing something, inherently by living in America, not having experienced these films, because it's like not watching Star Wars, it's like Star Wars is everywhere. Dracula is everywhere. You don't even realize it until you see the movie, and then you see it in everything.
Yeah.
And so,
but it doesn't in any way feel like self-parody or anything now that we know it so well. And some things, when you go back to it and you know it so well from parodies and stuff, it starts to feel silly. This doesn't.
Yeah.
It stands on its own very, very well. What was I going to say? The version you and I have both seen has no music on it.
Yeah.
It has the overture, which is from Swan Lake, which endeared me to this movie immediately, because I like that music a lot, and it works great in a horror setting. Darren Aronofsky used it in very similar fashion, although more robustly, in the film Black Swan. But in any case, I liked that. But then past that, there's no music, and actually, there are scored versions of the movie you can see. One of the scores is by Philip Glass, who is a great composer. But in any case, I like it without the score, that just silence.
It feels a lot more appropriate for the film.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they use silence very appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So some other fun facts I've learned. This movie was, because this was a very early sound film, this was released to theaters that had no sound systems as a silent film with intertitles. How would that work? There's way too much dialogue in this movie.
And that would take so much away from the movie, because like such a huge part of the movie is like whenever Bela Lugosi speaks, like he savors those lines so much. And it's kind of like when you again with the score in the silence, it's one of those, like, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is when Renfield first goes into the castle, and then like they're on the stairs, and then like you hear the wolves howling in the background, and Dracula just goes, "Listen to them, the children of the night, what music they make." Like, that silence around that, where it's just like all you hear is Bela Lugosi's voice, and it's so hypnotic. Like, everything about his portrayal is so hypnotic, which is so perfect for the character.
Absolutely.
The character is supposed to be hypnotic. That's like, any music would ruin that scene, and obviously if you couldn't actually hear him speak it, like, the power of those lines would be lost.
I just don't know how, because the majority of the movie is dialogue heavy. Yeah. I don't quite know how you would intertile that. That'd be way too many. It would be like, you've cut for 5 seconds, intertile.
Listen to the music of the night. Whether listen to them, children of the night, what music they make. It's like, welcome, I'm Dracula.
Yes, I don't know. It would be weird. I would love to go back in time and see a print of that and see, like, what would that be. They also made, this is kind of a fun fact, I have not seen it, but Universal and several studios used to do this, where they would the sets would be there for the movie, and then at night, they would shoot during the day, and then at night, another director would come on and shoot with a separate cast, the Spanish language version. Yeah. Which is kind of awesome, and that still exists.
Yeah, Spanish Dracula.
And it's on all the DVDs of Dracula and stuff. And I've heard it's really good, too.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself.
Yeah. I want to watch that sometime. I've heard that the Spanish Dracula has a really interesting take on the character as well. Mm-hmm. So that would be fun to see. There's multiple versions of this out there. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
And just like, the basic version, you just don't, there's no excuse not to see it, because it's like you can see it fucking everywhere.
It was censored after its initial release. It originally
like all these movies were originally.
It was originally ran 85 minutes, and this really all that was cut when the production code came into effect, and it was re-released 10 years later, was they cut this like prologue and epilogue, where like a narrator was there telling you about the movie, but he was also saying some things that would offend Christian people. And of course, if you know Hollywood history, the production code was a Catholic organization that censored all Hollywood movies for about 30 years there.
I just, like, in my head, I'm just, like, imagining the narrator being like, and then Dracula slaughtered those Christian motherfuckers. Fuck those fucking assholes.
Yeah, so
that would be our modern... What would you have to do to censor it today?
What he was specifically doing, as I understand it, was he was joking about vampires are real. When you leave the theater, you should be scared, and that offends Christian sensibilities for some reason.
I guess, sure,
because you're so insecure about your own faith.
It's really sort of sucks with like Frankenstein. Like the most significant portion they originally censored out of that was there's a part where Frankenstein picks up this girl and throws her into the river, like mistakenly. He doesn't realize he's going to drown her when he does it, but he ends up drowning her, and they cut out like probably 5 seconds of seeing the girl flail around in the water. At least with that, I can understand why you'd cut that out in like the 1930s, because like it is a really sort of, even today, it's a very sort of affecting, shocking thing to see. Yeah, but it's like saying
and some of the
vampires are real. Yeah, how does that offend anybody? Because no, they're not.
Yeah. No, but like, and then another thing that was cut that has been restored are some sound things. Like at the end of the movie when Van Helsing stabs Dracula, it's off screen, but you hear Dracula's death screams. Those were cut in the 30s, and they were not recovered until much later, but we do have them now. They're on...
Little did you know that that's the original source of the Wilhelm scream.
Not really.
That would be great.
Someone needs to recut that with Dracula doing the Wilhelm.
It kind of ruined that moment a lot, but...
It'd be great. Jonathan Harker is kind of looking away. Yeah. Ah! Whatever the Wilhelm screen is. Yeah. All right. So that's Dracula. Next week, Sean, what are we talking about?
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Where can we find this movie, Sean? I'm going to look.
It should be on Netflix. It was on Netflix at least like a year ago, so it might not be on there now.
I'm going to check a couple sources now.
You can get it on DVD, obviously, and probably, I would imagine they've probably done a Blu-ray release of it too.
It's definitely on Blu-ray, I know that. Thing is unavailable to stream.
That's unfortunate.
You can watch Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee.
It doesn't seem like The Thing from Another World, the original film, is not on Netflix either anymore. So that also sucks.
Yes. Thing is on Blu-ray, it's on DVD. I'm trying to check if it's on Amazon Instant Video. I'm sure it's on iTunes and whatnot, too.
Hey, there's just spoilers. I think this is a really good movie, so if this is... I would recommend getting the movie in some sort of digital format that you would own for the rest of your life, because I actually don't, and I'll probably just end up getting a Blu-ray of it or something, because it is a really good fucking movie. It's a movie that's, I think, also it's really rewatchable as well. So
Blu-ray is supposed to be really good for this movie, I've heard, so they did a good remaster.
Yeah. So...
All right, so we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about Batman Arkham Origins a little bit, depending on when we record this. Yeah. Maybe the next... Okay, this is coming out on like a Saturday or a Sunday. We obviously will not be doing another podcast tomorrow on Monday.
Yeah.
But next Monday, we may be returning to a normal Monday schedule.
Okay.
So it depends.
Stuff has been sort of up in the air because we've both been really busy. So.
Yes, I've had a ton of shit going on. Sean's got 2 presentations on the same day for
right
school.
After this podcast, I need to get on that. So
all right. So if you haven't seen Dracula, go watch Dracula. Have a fun Halloween season. Next week we'll talk about The Thing. We might talk about Insidious next week too. Combine it all. It depends on. I think that'll be the last week in October to do it. So we may do both of those.
Sure.
We may do Insidious afterwards. We'll see.
Okay.
We may not do it at all.
No,
we're going to do it?
We have to do Insidious.
Okay.
Like, we can't just talk about what are really good horror movies. We have to do one that, at least in my opinion, is not a very good horror movie for the length of its running time.
Okay. See you guys next week then.